Welcome to Dugout Discussions with the Coach. I'm Todd Scott Miller, your host, and joining me today is Rosalind Broome, and we've known each other for about 13 years, I think it is now, at least. So we started working together a long time ago at a same company, and we worked together again a few years ago for another company, and she's got a good story about getting into your own business and making it out on your own. So anyway, Rosalind, welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
I know it's a crazy thing. Since we've known each other so long, you know that anything I do is going to be kind of crazy. So, so we met working at an engineering company. They actually is a systems integration company. They put systems together. Combining things to build a new type of business. You were in project controls and scheduling.
Yes.
And I kind of came in because the business was having issues, and we started working together a lot. And that was when I started. We talked about this a little earlier, how you don't like being micromanaged, and I learned that real quick, so it was a good working relationship. Because I'm that type of manager. Oh, here you go. Here's the end goal.
Here's your time frame. It needs to be done. Now please do it. And I'm like, okay, leave me alone. Let me do it.
Yeah. And it got done, you know. And there's a lot of people who that doesn't work for, but it worked out well. And we did a lot together, turning that around.
Yeah.
Shaping up some project managers,
Mm-hmm.
maybe kicking some butt. And I mentioned at lunch you'd never seen so many grown men crying.
Yeah.
One time. So when we going back to that point, that time, and then that's right around the time I did my life coach certification.
Yeah.
And I was doing some of the practicum there at the office, and I think we were doing one on leadership.
Yeah.
And how did that help at all, or what were your thoughts on that?
It really did help going, because I went from that into project management, where you have absolutely no power over anyone, but you have all the responsibility. And so learning how to manage people to where they want to do the job for you, not because they have to do the job. I think that's one of the biggest lessons I've learned, because, having to do the job, that only works for so long. And then,
Yeah. Yeah, you can only threaten to fire somebody so many times.
Yeah.
Now, as I recall, when we were going through that, and this may just have happened in my mind, but we had conversations about the industry that we're in and not having an engineering degree.
Yeah. Because, I don't have a degree.
Yes. Or any degree.
Any degree.
I don't have an engineering degree, which means it's like a useless degree anyway. They don't care.
Yeah.
But also, as we were having these conversations, you needed to have your own business.
It was either me having my own business or me going back to school. Because I got to a point to where I had climbed the ladder as much as I could climb, and I had to have a degree. No matter if I staying in the industry, going to different companies, it doesn't matter. Whatever track that I went, I was going to have a degree. And it was, okay, do I finish my degree and go that route, or do I start my own business and go that route?
And what made you think about the own business thing versus?
I forever, as a kid, I would most girls would play kitchen or home or whatever. I played CEO.
You ran the restaurant they were cooking in?
I didn't really have a descriptive business. I was just in charge of a business, and it made me afford a mansion. And this was back in the 80s, with Miami Vice. And they would have the little video thing to where they would pull up to I had a video thing, and I would sometimes let my boyfriend in, and it would be, I wasn't married. I've always been very self-contained, and so I've been that way since I was a kid.
Yeah. And we talked about that. I think, where it was like, you're not going to move up in this industry.
No.
And we knew that. And what is it you're going to do? Because you need to be running it.
But yeah, because I got bored.
Yeah.
I was given a lot of advantages. I was blessed in the industry. I did really well for myself considering I didn't have a degree. And I came in at like bottom level, and worked my way up. I did really well considering, but I was like, okay, I'm bored. What can I do? And whatever it was going to be either a degree or on my own.
Yeah. And that's the thing too with our industries. It's easy to get bored because so much of it's the same thing over and over. Even though it's a different project, it's still
the same. I get bored regardless. So industry way doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It's just I'm gonna get bored eventually.
Yeah. I could tell because we talked a little bit about what you're going into, and it's like branching out now. So
I gotta have things to keep me occupied.
Yeah. Chris is like, no. That's why he's not here today, right? He's finding something else to keep you occupied. That's what it's.
That's the way it goes.
So as we did the leadership coaching, and you took that, and you did, I left there, and then I think you left a couple years after.
Yeah, I left in 2012
and started as a project manager.
I went to RAI, and I was the project controls manager, and I didn't do a very good job there because I was bored. I'm just gonna put it where it lays.
Yeah.
And I went from there to ABB and did project management there. I enjoyed it. It was very stressful. Chris was he was done with me.
And it was a lot of work.
It was a lot of work.
Yeah, I could understand that. But we talked about that. You said you didn't do a good job because you were bored, and we've talked about the earlier about kind of surprised that because you would tell your boss off when you felt like it and things like that. And I've done that too. And one of the things I think that's really come up a lot in the conversations I've had with people who are entrepreneurs, are working on being entrepreneurs, or want to be entrepreneurs is they're not very good employees.
I would have fired me. I'm surprised you didn't fire me. I would have fired me.
I'm not going to fire somebody who gets the work done. That's just stupid.
That was my only saving grace.
I can put up with a lot of attitude for that. It's like, no. Hey, she's got an attitude. Like, did you get the work? Well, yeah. Well, who cares? So, it's like, I don't care. Because I'm very hands off. I'm like, this is it. And if you need help, you come ask for it.
Yeah.
So there was that time, and then a few years, and then you came after ABB. You came to work for me again at we won't name that place, and but part of that was you were making this transition.
Yeah.
So where were you when you made that call to leave there and come over to what I was? What were you doing outside of that?
I was getting the business set up, so I was doing like the business plan and all the forecasting, and there's a lot that goes into like before you get started. There's a lot that goes in because you've got to do a lot of research, market research. It's for me, it was something that I had never done before, and so I just had to like feel my way through it, and it was hard because I was working 60 plus hours a week as a project manager, and then I was working 20, 30, 40 hours a week trying to get everything done to get the business started.
Mm-hmm.
Because we bought the property, we closed it down, and we opened it up, and so it was a startup.
And it's a daycare.
Yeah.
And the daycare comes with a whole lot of additional work.
Yeah.
You got to have certified directors, you got to have the teachers, you got to have the certifications, the state licenses, and all that kind of stuff. So there's a lot more that goes into it beyond just I hung a shingle.
Yeah. It's not just babysitting kids all day.
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard work, and the staff works really hard. And we finally got to a point to where we had the staff. We've got a good staff now. It runs itself, but it took a long time to get there. It took a lot of hard work, Yeah. I mean,
and you were just, and when you came to work for me, we had this conversation. Now this one I actually remember pretty well, where it was like, I just want to let you know I'm starting this. And I think you actually told me when we were doing the interview.
Yeah.
You were starting the daycare. You were working on the business. So I said, okay, fine.
Because it was like, because I went to work for you, I think it was like August 11th. And I was like, look, or it was at the end of August. And I was like, look, September 6th or whatever, I've got to have the day off. I know I just started, but I need the day off because I'm closing on a property. It's for another business, And you're like, okay, that's cool. Just whatever.
Yeah. Because I'm like that. I'm awesome. But no, it's one of those where, and I did this even when I developed the employee evaluation program at the other place we worked together, which was, kind of encouraging people to, where do you want to go? And we don't have that real conversation in businesses because we're always thinking about what I want you doing in 2 years, and we have a kind of a selfish motivation to keep people forever, rather than helping people develop.
Right.
And if you're helping people develop, even if it's to develop outside the business, I think that is going to benefit you, because not only they're going to realize that you're helping them, so they're going to help you, first of all, and second of all, they're going to be much happier while they are there. And it creates good relationships, I think, with people around you, because they know you're looking out for them and not just yourself.
Yeah. And I think too, it opens that dialogue to where you can train someone before you leave, so it's an easier transition for the business that's supporting you while you're opening your own.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and it's hard to do when you have a business, because not all the managers are as awesome as I am.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah. Awesome. So anyway, so you were making that transition, and I remember I'd be sitting there, and you'd come over, and you'd be exasperated because you're dealing with employee problems and things. And I remember
there was one like that transition from working around nothing but men to nothing but women. That was a really difficult transition for me.
I remember that because you came in and you just sat down in my office and you go, and I was a little nervous to turn around, but I did. Yes, Roz? How do you do it? I said, do what? And you said, work with women. Like, I just pretty much treat them like my wife and go, well, yes, dear. But tell me about that. Tell me, and it's different because, the engineering world is male dominated and the daycare world is female dominated. Young child education, all education is female dominated, which is part of our educational issue that we don't want to acknowledge, but it is true.
Yeah.
And you have this, so that's a big switch. You're going from over here to now you're managing them all, and over here everyone's very highly educated. Over here,
not so much.
You don't need a degree or anything to do this, but a lot of them have worked in childcare, so they know it.
Yeah. They
know what they're doing. It's just
a lot of them don't. It's
a different world.
Yeah.
What was that change like?
Horrific. Because my personality goes along the lines of like engineering. I don't do emotion well. I'm not a sympathetic, caring person like that. Like, it's really work for me.
As I recall, you were a C type on the disc profile.
Yeah. I'm very analytical, and I'll make a decision, pretty easily. It's just, I'm more logic based. Chris says that I'm like, from Star Trek, who was it?
Data?
No.
The robot?
The other
Are you the
one.
robot?
No, the other
It's
one.
Spock?
He's like, stop being so Spock-like. And so Chris was my buffer. I'd have him deal with the employees, and then I was if you can't get it together with him, then you have to talk to me, and that's not going to be a great conversation. It was a growing experience for me, in that it was a growing experience. I'm still learning, I guess I'm a little bit more in touch with my emotions now, being on that side, because it's different. Everything's different. You're dealing with kids, and so, you have to show at least some kind of empathy. Yeah. It took me a while. Yeah. I'm okay there now.
Yeah. So how important, you mentioned Chris a lot in it, how important is it to have a duo?
For me and Chris, it has to be that way, because I'm so far this way and he's so far that way. We kind of balance each other out. I think it's real important for communication, and I think that as a couple, if you're doing it as a couple, you really find the cracks in your relationship where communication's involved whenever you get a business, especially when you have a person like me who's very got a work personality and a home personality. Work personality, I'm all business. It's, I go in, do my job, and that's it. And then home is something else, and try not to bleed over, because I don't do well with that. And then Chris, he's a lot more balanced. And so I think it's real important to have that person, that duo, because for me, I have analytical, abilities that Chris, that's not his strength. He's got person abilities that's not my strength. And we kind of help each other out. And Chris will go and get stuff done. If it needs to be done quick, he's all loan thing, because, if we get down the loan process and they're like, well, we need these things. And I'm like, well, why didn't you ask me about it before? And Chris is like, okay, and just gets it done. And then I get all mad and, me. And then 2 days later, I'm like, okay, I'll give it to you. And Chris will just go through and just get it done. It'll take longer with me. Whereas, on the analytical stuff, I'm like, okay, is this a good business decision? This is what we're looking at. I look down the road, and, Chris will look at short term, not long term. He's getting better, just like I'm getting better on mine. But that's where my strength lies, and that we really rely on each other.
So I want to come back to the duo thing, because I want to talk about that. But you'd said something in there about the work versus the home. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of times we do that. Do you think, and this is kind of going down a different path, but do you think that that's something that's because of the way work is set up and the way management's done and things like that? Do you think it was specific to the particular industry where it kind of forces a separate mindset, or what are your thoughts on that?
I would say maybe. I think being a woman and in that it's different. Because, being a woman in a male dominated field, you've got to be very non-emotional, because they are, you already get like,
There's
okay,
no crying in engineering.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And so there's already, and they already look at, and when I was doing it, I was, considerably younger. So you got someone in their 30s, no degree, coming into this, and these men are like, well,
Try and tell me what to do.
yeah, So I had to prove myself and show them I work just as hard, if not harder than they do. And that I'm just as capable as they are, And so, and then doing the balance, because as a woman, you're looked at like keeping the household together, keeping the family together. I'm much better on the other side at work than I am like as the motherly figure. I'm just not a nurturing person. And it's a hard balance to where you're still a good wife and good mom, but you're a good leader in an engineering type of environment. You know what I mean? It's different.
And part of do you feel like that separation, now that you've started your own business, but that separation has kind of come more together where you're more you all the time, or do you still feel like you have a separate work?
It's not as dramatic.
Okay.
Like Chris and I, we'll talk about, like, we're real open with each other about home and work, and so if we're talking, if we're like, we're on a, like, okay, we're gonna have a date, or we're gonna have this, and it's more home stuff, if you're gonna change it on me, I need to know, because I have to get mentally prepared. I still don't have a smooth transition. It doesn't go back and forth easily. And so I have to get my mind prepared. Okay, I'm at home or I'm working, and so I need more communication. And so,
but it's only been about 3 or 4 years.
It's been 3. I think it's August. It'll be 3.
3 years. Okay. Yeah. So it's not like we're talking. Yeah, but you're starting to see that change happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, but part of that could just be a personality. You like to have forewarning and be able to plan, because
right.
you were like a C was like here.
Yeah, I'm very analytical, and so, but and I think a lot of that too is, like you were saying, more personality based, because I have more male tendencies, like as far as the way I think, and so it was a really good fit for engineering, but it's a shock for a salesperson, that is your spouse. It's like, why? What's going on with you?
I think part of what I want to understand and see if this is. Do you think that having your own business, running your own business, being your own boss, or whatever, however you want to put it, has allowed you to be more you?
I think so. It's hard because you do something for so long, and you're becoming an adult, you're growing, and so sometimes you forget. It's like, I don't know, maybe. But I think, because it's not just stark contrast now, it's.
You're not having to have separate identities. Your
right.
identity can. And then it allows you to, like what you said, allows you to find it again.
Yeah.
It allows you to play CEO again.
Yeah, but it's still a difference between, like, me as a partner and mom, and me as person running the company.
Yeah. Well, and I think I think that's normal. Right, because it's different.
Yeah, it's different.
It's different situations. Yeah. It's like, us sitting down and having a conversation over lunch is going to be different than us sitting down and having a conversation over a project at work. Now, we still might be ourselves as we're having it, but the conversation's just different.
Yeah.
Right. But so, it's one of those things where, I did a bunch of talks on identity. And, all of this is kind of driven around the midlife years and change in the midlife years. I've seen quotes and people sharing things about how the midlife crisis is really an identity crisis. And it's because we were this person, and then we kind of had this stuff where we're growing a career, working, raising children, and all this stuff. And then you get to this other point where it's like, all of this is different now. Who am I?
Yeah, and one thing too that they don't really talk about is whenever you have your own business, you lose friends. I mean, it's a lonely path. You know, it really is. And because that was something that happened to me, you know, it's like, oh, I'm doing this, and all of a sudden friends scatter. And it's not just me, you know, it's talking to other business owners and stuff like that.
Yeah.
You find out that happens. And it's something that you don't really count on, you know. I'm kind of a loner anyway, so it doesn't really bother me, but
I find that a lot with the entrepreneurial personality, but that's interesting. Do you think it's because... Why do you think that is? I'm just going to ask you open. Why do you think that is? What?
I don't know. I don't understand it. I don't know if it's because if there's like nothing to relate to, because you can't talk about your bosses. You can't talk about the company screwing you over because it's your own company. You make your own decisions. It's different. It's a different conversation. And so that like how you relate to someone else, it's different now. You don't have the same things to relate to.
That makes a lot of sense to me, because a lot of conversation that you have with other people's about work, and the relating part of that is complaining about the processes you got to follow and your boss and all the stuff and how this happened, or they're not paying you that, or you're not paid it. All the complaining. But once you start your own business, you stop complaining about those things because you are the buck stops here.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
I think too, you know, as an entrepreneur and going along that whole like identity thing, I think it's important to learn to be grateful. Because I think as an employee, you aren't grateful just because you're always like you were saying, like always complaining about whatever. But as an entrepreneur, it's like, okay, I have to find gratitude. I'm so blessed. I'm so this, I'm so that. But you have to find it. You have to change the way you think, you know, and if you don't do that, then you're not going to make it.
You have to become more optimistic.
Right.
That's interesting.
And in the process, you become happier.
Yeah. And it's interesting how the happiness comes from the gratitude, which you find because you're now grateful for what you do have. You know, it is easy to lose gratitude when you have the check just rolling in every month.
Yeah.
Because it's like, they're going to pay me just for showing up. So, you know, what difference does it make, right?
Right.
And it's easy to be ungrateful or to lose some of the gratitude around that because it's just going to come in. Whereas when you're an entrepreneur, you're grateful for having the customers and your employees and the business you have. And
if you're not grateful for those things, you shouldn't be doing it.
Yeah. Because
you're not going to find happiness.
Yeah. Yeah, that's something that you know, that might be a good talk actually. But happiness is something that a lot of times we go chasing, and it's not out there. You're not going to find, it's not just laying around in a field to find. Mm-hmm. It's, you either bring it with you or it ain't going to be there.
Yeah.
It's like fun. Fun's the same way. So I tell people you got to have fun with what you're doing. You can have fun anywhere. But, you know, I mean, you only have to go to Disney World a few times to realize there's a whole lot of people there who aren't having any fun. And because they were expecting fun to just be there. Yeah. Like I could pick it up. Nah. Interesting. This is something for me that's fascinating with identity and the work life balance and all those things, because I do feel like we lose something in our current work type environment with the way that we work. We lose a lot of connection with family, with the gratitude, with the customers, with stuff like that, because it's so compartmentalized, where even an office job is an assembly line.
Yeah.
So let's go back to the duo. Now, this is one of those things where I get this completely, where and I think it's the old saying, opposites attract. When you come together and you're different, if you learn to accept those differences and build on each other's strengths and kind of defer to the other person's strengths together, it makes a much better team.
Yeah.
But it's not a team even. It's almost like a single.
It's a single unit.
Unit that comes out of it, because you're balancing each other. And the great example I like of this is Walt and Roy Disney. Mm-hmm. Right? There is no Walt Disney Company without Roy, because you got to have the person who's finding the money, who's keeping things on track and all that kind of stuff. But there's also none without Walt, because there's no vision, there's no creativity, and he was the sales guy, even though he didn't consider himself one.
Yeah.
But one or the other, it doesn't exist.
Right.
But when you put them together, man, look what they do now. What that company does. Mm-hmm. So, to me, that duo thing is something I think a lot of people miss out on.
And it doesn't have to be your partner. It can be someone, your brother, sister, cousin, friend. It doesn't matter. But I think it's imperative to have that balance and be real honest with yourself on what you're not good at. Like I'm awful at sales. Don't put me in a sales environment. There's a very good chance that I'm not going to make the sale. So if you want me to make the sale, the best thing to do is not have me in the situation.
I like that you said that. It's about being brutally honest with yourself. Because we don't like to admit when we're not good at stuff, do we?
No.
Yeah.
I'll tell you. I don't care.
Yeah.
I'm brutally honest just on the regular, so.
Yeah, I know. Trust me. Yeah. Like, that's stupid. Okay, Ross, thank you. All right, well, now we know it's stupid. So let's not do that again. But anyway, we were working together. You started building this. You did the business. You got things moving. And then there came a point where it's like, I have to quit.
Yeah, Chris told me. He's like, I need you on this side now. I need you to leave. And I was like, oh no. I like the paycheck. And he was like, I need you. And I was like, okay, I'll leave. And I left.
And started full-time working.
Yeah, it took me a couple of years because the first year was like me just resting, because I was working so many hours for so long under so much stress. And so it was more of like, my body just was like, okay, we're done. We're not doing, and so I would go and I would do, but I was like, I wasn't on all cylinders. And that was about a year. And then we started going, and then it changed, and I was working there too. And then it got to where we had such an amazing team that, we did more harm being there than being away. And so that was a hard thing for me to wrap my head around. It's like, it was one of those things, being brutally honest of, is me being here helping, and whenever the answer is no, it's hard. It's a hard pill to swallow, and it's like, okay, what am I going to do now? And then I just kind of floundered around for a little bit, and then we started doing real estate, and then.
So I think you made 2 big changes.
Yeah.
So the first was to, if I'm remembering the quadrants right, that Robert Kiyosaki talks about, the first was to the entrepreneur, which is where you've basically created a job for yourself.
Right.
And then the second was you've got a team built that runs this job. Mm-hmm. So they don't even need you anymore. So then now you're a business owner.
Right.
And that's a different mindset.
Right.
And I think that these mindset changes are things that are hard for people. So first you have to go from employee to entrepreneur to business owner, and then business owner goes to the next
investor.
step, which is investor. Oh, man, this is it, right?
I don't know. I'm going to say that.
I think so. Yeah.
I read Rich Dad Poor. I read Rich Dad Poor Dad, and it was a hard book for me to read and absorb. And for the first few chapters, I just had to take it for just a minute, and then I got my head wrapped around it, and then I was like, okay, let's go,
Mm-hmm.
And so now when I spend money, it's like, is this going to make me money? Me spending this money, is it going to make me money? And if the answer is no, I'm like, I don't know if I really want to spend the money, and so it's a different mentality to have.
Yeah. And the investor level now, you guys are looking at real estate.
Yeah, we bought 3 homes last month.
Man. Now you're technically already in the real estate business.
Yeah.
As a daycare owner.
Yeah. Because we own the land.
And that makes you money.
Yeah.
Even though you're not working at it.
Yeah.
And that's, again, these are mindset changes.
Right.
And these are hard to wrap your mind around, especially when you're talking about employee. I think it's EBTI. Anyway, when you go from that employee to the entrepreneur, I think it's the hardest step because it's not the steady paycheck.
For me, it wasn't. For me, it was going to investor.
Okay.
Like me not actually being in there and having my little hands in it, and allowing. I have no problem allowing the people to do it, but it's like, oh, it's actually running better without me. That was a hard pill. It really was.
Like, man, I thought it was important.
Yeah, you're not important.
Yeah.
And that's okay. It's actually good, That's what you want.
Well, your importance changes, right? Because now it's no longer about doing a job. It's about creating jobs.
Yeah, and it's about how are you going to build the business and, strategizing. But one thing going from the systems integration to this, it's like it's tangible to abstract. That for me that's been so hard. And doing the homes kind of helps it because I'm like, oh, well, I'm going to take this POS home and I'm going to make it beautiful. And so I see I got the beginning and
concrete
ending.
to grab onto.
Yeah.
I could see that. That would be, and I think that abstractness of it is hard.
For me, it is.
Yeah, for me too. I've always liked building something.
Yeah. Which
is why now I'll do personal projects, whether it's around the house or putting something together here or do it. It helps me to have that tangible thing, because when you make that jump, I think it was Robert Kiyosaki, but this actually might have been Napoleon Hill, but they said money's just an idea. That's all it is. And that's once you wrap your mind around that concept, and that concept is that intangible part of it, where it's the money's there, and I'm not working my ass off. What's going on?
Yeah. Another one with Robert Kiyosaki that I had a hard time. Well, it took me a minute to is the leverage, because I spent so much time getting all of my debt paid off, except for my house. And now I'm using it to create money. And, it's learning the good debt versus bad debt to where, debt's not bad. It's just how you utilize it. That took me a minute I had no problems like using the debt correctly. It was just going into debt like that. So
that was hard again.
It was.
And ignoring Dave Ramsey. Tillman Fertitta said, borrow the money before you need it.
Yeah.
And that's what he did is he gets the money, and then when Joe's Crab Shack comes up for sale again, which he sold for, I forget, like $1 billion, and then he bought it back for half a billion dollars.
Yeah.
It's one of those deals where you get, if it's there and the opportunity comes up, be ready for it.
Yeah.
But it's good debt versus bad debt. It's about being smart with it. You're buying it to make money, not to go buy it.
And
things.
It's like on that, having your own business, you have to sacrifice a lot. Like we have one car.
Yeah.
Because we had 2 vehicles. One of them's paid off. The other one we sold because it was $500 a month. That $500 could be going somewhere else to make us money. Mm-hmm. You might be like $500, whatever, but if you've got to think that way, and like our car is old. We got it. It's a 2012. We paid it off. I don't know, 4 years ago, 5 years ago, something like that. And I'm not planning on getting rid of it until we absolutely have to.
Yeah, till it dies. Yeah, it does. It changes the way you think about things, though, because it's not about having stuff. It's about building stuff, building a business. That freedom.
Do you want it now? Or do you want to where you can have much more later?
Yeah.
Are you able to wait?
Yeah. Delayed gratification. Yeah. We have trouble with that in our society. A lot of trouble with that. That's very good. I like that because I think that's something that, and I've talked about this in almost all the talks so far, is we don't think about entrepreneurs, business owners, until they're successful, until they're a household name, and then we want to criticize them or beat them up. It's the Jeff Bezos or the Sam Walton for Walmart, even though I hate Walmart. But Sam Walton or Steve Jobs or Bill Gates, these people who build a business, they started out at that same point where they were sacrificing stuff. They were, Walt Disney. There was years where he and his brother lived above a sandwich shop, and what they had for dinner was leftovers from the sandwich shop. Mm-hmm. That the guy was willing to just give them because he knew they were hungry. But, now his business is an empire.
Yeah.
So there's a lot to that. And it's easy to criticize once they become successful and ignore all those years that they put stuff in. And that's the part that people don't want to do.
Yeah.
And that's the part that's hard. Like making that jump. That's scary. Where you go from that steady check to this. Very interesting. Mm-hmm. So what's next for you and Chris and the business and all the stuff you're doing?
So like I said, we got started on real estate. We want to grow that because we got to get our net worth up to where we can buy apartments. That's where we want to go with that. And then we're looking at starting a second center.
Okay.
That's been new. We just. So one of our employee came to us and was like, "Hey, there's this area over here. It's about to blow up. I think a child care center is going to do great over here." So Chris and I are all about making money, and we're like, and plus we've got buy-in, you know. So for us, it's a no-brainer. It's like we've got people that in our organization that are wanting to do it. They have the motivation to do it. You know, we don't have to sell them on anything. They're actually trying to sell us. You know, this is an awesome place to be, and we need to continue to nurture that and make it and grow it. So that's what we're looking at is what can we do to make this happen.
And this is partially where having those resources available when you need it, when the opportunity shows up.
Yeah.
Because
if you use all your credit to buy a car or a boat or whatever, then when there's opportunities like that, then it's like, well, you know.
Can't seize it.
Yeah.
An opportunity doesn't go away. It just moves on.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, I don't know who said it, but one of the little people said it, you know, like Kawasaki or whatever. Somebody said it, that you can't get rich slow. And so you have to have those things to be set up so you can go from one to the other to the other. You can't, if you're going to sit around and wait for it to happen, it's not going to happen.
Yeah, you got to be moving. Yeah, I did a whole talk on that. You got to be moving. And that's the thing is the movement, it does start out slow.
It does.
Where it's like...
You're like, is this ever going to stop? Because...
And I had this conversation with a friend of mine earlier, where we were talking about the tipping point, right? And I said, I can see things starting to tip, and it's about right here. But the water's all down here. It's only like this much. Yeah. But it's funny because once things start to tip, the weight moves this way, thinking physics, and they just start tipping a little faster and a little faster until it's over. And that's what happens. It's slow, and then it starts to tip, and then the next opportunity, and the next one, and then they come faster and faster and faster. And you just got to be able to seize it.
Yeah. And you have to have, faith in yourself too. It was like Ford said something about like there's two people and one says that they can do it and the other says they can't, and they're both right. It's just having that determination, and are you willing to do whatever it takes to be successful? And that's something you have to come within yourself. There's no right or wrong answer. It's just something that you have to be honest with yourself. And if you want it, then go ahead and go. And you're willing to do the work, then do it.
Yeah.
And if not, then don't do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like as going up through corporate America, it'd be like, hey, can you do this? And my answer was always yes, because I was like, I'll learn. I'll learn. That's no problem. We'll do it. Let's go.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's something. That's a good point. It's having faith in yourself, too. There's a lot that goes into this.
There's a lot.
It's not, and a lot of it, most of it's up here.
Yeah, because if you don't have faith in yourself, then you're not going to make the step to move this way, because you might be holding your business up because you're not willing to take the risk, and jump into it. It can go either way.
Yeah.
And and if you jump into it, are you willing to do what it takes? That's huge too.
Yeah, that's scary too. But but again, the honesty part that you mentioned again, and I think that comes up a lot, and I think that is something that you have to be honest with yourself, and knowing that you can do it, and at the same time know that you can't do it all. So you're going to need somebody else, right? And that sometimes is the hardest part, is finding that balance. Who's it going to be? Because you'll talk to people, and some people are like, oh yeah, and then they just disappear. Or some people are into it up to the execution point. Some people they love the idea, but they're not. And some people are like, no. So it's finding that other, and a lot of times you find them it's your spouse, or your a close friend or a close relative. That somebody, and I know you hear all the time, don't ruin the business with family, and I'm going to say that's just stupid, because a lot of the best businesses are started by family.
It depends, I think.
Well, yeah, but
because like I wouldn't have family. I wouldn't have family working in the business now. Now, my mom helped us at the beginning. She was in there when I was at work, helping Chris and stuff. And she was invaluable.
But you and Chris are.
But me and Chris were still, we had,
I consider family, spouse too. But
yeah. I mean, I would do, with Chris, absolutely. But we both have that same, his dad was an entrepreneur, he comes from that. We work together well.
Yeah.
And we have, we both have strong personalities, and sometimes that they clash, but we just talk it out. And
yeah. And that's a big piece of it too. And that's important. I did a talk on communication yesterday, where and it happens. You argue, you fight, you disagree, and it doesn't matter whether that's you do that over dinner, you do that over $1 million deal. It just, but you can't let that kill the relationship either.
Right. I think you need to know how. What's helped with Chris and I is that I know how to explain things now, because I'm usually the one saying no because I'm the analytical person. And so I know now that if I'm telling him no, I need to explain why and how I need to explain it. Like for him, it's talking money. If we do this, we're going to lose $25,000. Okay, we don't want to do that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And so knowing how to put it, I think sometimes that takes just time.
Yeah.
And
understanding people. We go back all the way back to how we met. And it's like Rosalind does not want to be micromanaged. She does not need to be micromanaged. Just tell her what you need, let her go do it. And understanding people and how they function, how they work, how they're going to work together, those strengths, those weaknesses, all those types of things, and being able to utilize that. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the hardest part. It's like kids. I got 3 kids. They're all different. Mm-hmm. If I tried to treat them all the same, it never worked. Mm-mm. It's the same with people. They're all different. It's learning how different people work and then working with their personality instead of trying to force them to work with yours.
Because that doesn't work.
No. And all it does is
push
them away. Man, that's crazy, huh?
Excuse me.
You allergic to some money tree?
Oh. I'm not.
I come in here and I pet it. Oh shit! I knocked a leaf off. Anyway, but that was why I say, if I recall, you were a C personality. We did a whole disc profile for the whole office, and there were a whole lot of C personalities in that office. But it's about understanding how each other's communicating and coming at things from a different angle, because then you can communicate the way they want to be communicated to. And that's what we all really want, is to be treated like the person we are.
Right. Because my thing too, one of the communication difficulties that Chris and I have is that I don't explain things. I'm just no.
Yeah. You got an answer.
And then it's well then,
how'd you come to that answer?
Right. It's because I don't have any explanation with it. It's just what do you think about this? And I'm no. And instead of saying, I don't think it's a good idea because if we do it, we're going to lose $25,000, blah, 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 blah. Given those, now I know how to talk to him as far as I talk to him in money, instead of talking about the other 15 different things that come into he doesn't care about that. We just need to focus on the money portion.
Yeah. He wants to get to the end picture.
Right.
So is he like a D type personality? Or?
He's an otter.
He's me.
Yeah.
Ah, yeah, the I. Yeah, we're special.
Yeah.
But we're fast moving.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. We're why are you taking so long?
Right.
I've already made this decision. I already knew this 3 weeks ago. You just catching up?
Yeah.
Yeah. Because you had to go through the analysis and the.
Yeah, so, usually, I'll make a decision fairly quickly. I need a little bit of time to think it all the way through, because I think of it from beginning to end, not from here till next week. you know? And
Mm-hmm.
so, like, I just assume that you see the end picture and me saying no, you know why. And then I found out that that's not really the case, so.
And this communication thing, and this is why I say it's a lot that you have to think about and work on. But, I have a guest coming in a couple weeks. It's stuff you can learn as you go. I think what prevents a lot of us from making the move is we don't know all of it. So we're worried we don't know all the answers. So I got to learn a little more. I got to learn. So we're scared to make the jump because of that. But you can learn some of this as you go.
I learned most of it as I went.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't know anything about childcare. I did some research. Chris was a business broker.
Like communicating with women.
Yeah, communicating with women. I literally, I think the whole like 12, 13 years that I was in that field, I think I worked with like 5 women that weren't receptionists in that whole time. You know, that's not many.
Yeah. One of them was the boss.
One of them was the boss. 2 of them were my boss.
Yeah, she was good. She was one of my favorites.
Mm-hmm.
Because she was like that too, where it's like, hey, I need you to do this, and you just...
Yeah.
She let you go, and if you needed help, you called her, and she said, okay, and she'd take care of it.
Yeah. And so it was still like in that same mind, like the women that I worked for, they had the same kind of thought process. You know, the women I worked with, I just did the best I could, you know.
But again, it's the different communications, the different styles, the different industries are different in how they communicate. And it's, I remember that conversation. I use that conversation as an example all the time where you sit down and you go, how do you do it? And I'm like, I'm afraid to ask, Roz. Do what? Communicate with women. I said, I don't know, Roz. You're one. Tell me. You tell me.
I'm like, I do great communicating with men. It's just the women that I have problems with.
And at first, when you asked that, it was a little bit like, I'm not sure how to answer
Is this a trick question?
I see an HR visit in my future. I don't know what's going on right now. I'm confused.
Well, see, the thing is, I'll cuss you out before I call HR.
Yeah, I know. That's why I was like, okay, well, I don't know. It's kind of like a crapshoot.
So I was like, you know what, I thought about it afterwards, and I'm like, you know what's sad, that I have to go talk to a man about how to talk to my sex. But yeah.
It's because we're all different.
You know, and I'm so blessed that we found management that I can talk straightforward to. I don't have to try to change the way I interact. I can be myself, and
then they go and they do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they don't take offense to it, or, you know.
And again, that's identifying what I'm good at, what I'm not good at.
And, you know, finding people that to employ that fit that. You know, if this is an issue, then you've got to like tailor the position to that.
I want to talk about that real quick because I think we're probably getting close here. But how hard is it? And I've done this as a manager, but I'm gonna ask you, how hard is it to admit I'm not good at something and I need to hire somebody who's gonna work for me, who's good at that?
It was hard at first. I'm beyond that now. I'm like, I don't do that well. I'm not doing it. I'm just gonna hire someone to do it.
It limits you, doesn't it?
You end up limiting yourself, and you limit the business.
Yes.
If you just hire someone that's good at it, they're going to do better than you could ever do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's something that I'll talk about to managers, and it's a hard pill to swallow a lot of times as a manager to say, I'm not good at this. I need to hire somebody who is good at this.
Yeah, I'm beyond it. I'll tell you everything I'm not good at.
Yeah.
And you'll ask me what I'm good at. I'm like identifying what I'm not good at.
And I think that that's an important thing. And that's not just business, but it's life.
Yeah.
But man, it can be a tough pill for people to swallow, where you got to say, I'm not good at this, and the person who's going to work for me is going to be better at it than I am, and they're going to know more about it than I am. And it's about removing ego from it.
Yeah.
And about putting the mission ahead of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's hard for a lot of people.
Yeah, it was hard for me at first.
Yeah.
Now I'm like, whatever. I don't care.
Yeah.
Just get it done, please. Thank you very much.
Yeah. I've been that way a long time. I don't want to do anything really. I just want other people to do it.
That's kind of where I'm at now. It's like now I do high level stuff and just go from there. Yeah. Like, let's look at areas that we're gonna do this. Let's look at like I like with the real estate, like is this a good business decision? Is it not? Okay, so on the renovation, how much do we do? How much do we not? And then same thing for like the second location. Let's start like the idea of having a second location. Before I was like, no, there's no way. No. And now I've gotten to where I'm like, okay, yeah, let's do it.
Yeah.
So.
Anyway, I just want to thank you for coming, for chatting with me and doing this. I know, and sharing, because I think as more of these come out, people see things that are constant and things that are different, and it's all different for different people going into their own business or going into different areas or whatever it is. We all have a different experience because we're all coming from a different personality, a different perspective, a different background. When you go from the engineering background into the daycare background, man, that's a big change. You go from the managing in engineering to managing in daycare, that's a big change. It's different worlds, different personalities, different genders, and it's accepting those differences and working with them instead of trying to fight them. That's key.
I think too, on managing people, giving people a job, letting them know what you want, and then letting them do it. And then whenever they do it, don't criticize it. Like, don't tear it apart. That for me was the hardest thing. Is like,
I'll start telling them how you would have done it.
Yeah. Why didn't you do this? Why didn't you do that? You just, when you give it to someone, just know that it's okay. If it's 80%, it's okay. It doesn't have to be 100% right. Mm-hmm. Because I think most entrepreneurs are perfectionists. Yes,
I think there's a lot of that. But to that point, and this, I hate to turn it into a pitch about my book, but I talk about big picture stuff, vision, mission, goals, mm-hmm. and then I'll get into more details. But so much of what you just said is about, this is what I'm trying to accomplish. Go do it. If you need help, call me. And letting people go do it. Mm-hmm. And not worrying about how they get from A to B. As long as they're not breaking the law or doing anything really stupid or crazy. The process that you use to make it happen, I don't care about, as long as we get there. And it doesn't cost a whole lot more. But that's where the schedule and the budget come in, right? I set those things. That's part of the objective. But letting people do it their way, what difference does it make?
It doesn't make any difference.
It doesn't make any difference, as long as we accomplished it. Right? And it is hard to do, because first of all, and this is something that is a big leadership problem, is admitting that the only time I've really done my job properly as a manager, leader, is when I don't have to be there for the work to get done. And it's like, that's hard to, because then it's like,
well, what's my purpose?
What am I doing here? It was like, I kind of feel bad. No, that's
your job.
That's your job, is to make yourself unnecessary.
Mm-hmm.
And that's hard. But it's exciting.
Mm-hmm.
because that allows you to go do other things.
Yeah. Yeah, Chris and I, we had gotten to a point before we started doing real estate. I was like, we're retired. You realize that, right? And he was like, the next day he comes to me, he's like, you're right, we are retired because we don't have to be anywhere. We're not doing anything, you know? And then it was like, what am I doing? The answer was nothing. So we found stuff to do.
Yeah. And those hobbies just happen to make you more money. How many people want to retire and do nothing? What do you want to do that for? Retire and do stuff that makes you money.
Yeah. It's like the financial planner had talked to me about, okay, so what about whenever you get older, you know, what about this and that? And I'm like, one thing, the real estate company, you know, like organization that I'm with, they're like, no 401k, no this, no that, because real estate will give you more money than those will. And they're talking about, I cashed out my 401k, whatever, you know, and I was like, so in my mind, I'm like, 401k, I'm not making money. You know, I am, but I'm not, you know. This money could be over here making me more money, you know, and so it's like, but you don't want to say that to the financial planner because they're going to flip out on you. And so it's like, okay, whatever. You know, it's just one of those you have to learn to just say, okay, whatever, and just go on your, you know.
Changing the mindset. That's a hard thing too. And it's not for everybody.
It's not for everybody.
And I think last week Kevin said that when we left. It's not for everybody. I think that's a common thing, and it's not for everybody. But that doesn't mean that for people out there that finding this thing is not out of realm. You know, it's like the employee came to you and said, you know, I think we should do this. You can still find people who have a business, who have things, who are going to help you do those types of things within an employee type atmosphere. So you got the steady check, you got the work, you got the stuff coming in, but they're going to let you grow and share ideas and help you do those ideas. And you can still do it within that safety net, so to speak.
I think that real estate is probably the easiest way to make that transition because you can, it doesn't require a whole lot of time, you know, while you're working your corporate job doing that until you've made enough money through real estate to supplement your income, you know, and so it gives you that buffer, you know, and so now going childcare like I did, that's
a whole different world.
No.
That's a whole different world.
That's a whole different boat. I wouldn't suggest doing it.
Yeah, especially when you're coming from where you were.
Yeah.
Well, but the change is possible.
Change is possible, absolutely.
It's just, are you willing to admit the hard things, what you don't know, who you need to help, things like that, and accept it and move on.
Yeah.
So, anyway, well, thanks again for coming.
No problem. Thank you
and
for having me.
I hope everybody gets something out of this. I think there's a lot of little things in there that you can grab a hold on and learn from. But the one I really want to leave you with is the being brutally honest with yourself. Until you fix this, get all of those things in the right place, and understanding how important gratitude is, and understanding that happiness is not something you're going to find, it's something you create within yourself. Until you do those things, you're not going to be able to make the changes you really want to make or live the life you really want to live. So find that, be that, do that, and then you can make bigger changes. So this is the coach signing off. God bless you.